The city carved from the mountain. At the edge of the reach, where the cliffs rise like broken teeth against the sky, there stands a city that does not belong to man or time. It was not built, it was carved. Born from the bones of the mountain itself, each wall, each bridge, each echo of hammer and chisel is a testament to an age when even the earth obeyed the will of its makers. This is Markarth, the city of stone and blood. From afar it gleams like gold beneath the dim light of the western sun. Waterfalls tumble from its heights, spilling silver across the rocks, their mist catching the light like molten glass. The wind here carries the scent of iron and river moss, the breath of the mountain mingled with the ghosts of those who shaped it. And beneath it all, you can feel a pulse, steady, patient, as though the mountain itself still remembers the rhythm of the hammers that once struck its heart. Markarth is not a city that welcomes easily. Its gates rise high, flanked by towers cut straight from the cliffs, their ancient Dwemer designs still glinting with unnatural precision. To enter is to descend into shadow and sound, the echo of footsteps on stone, the rush of water through unseen channels, the faint hum of old machines that have forgotten their masters. It feels alive in a way that cities of men do not. It breathes in silence, endures without sympathy, and watches without blinking. The first settlers who came here found not ruin, but a riddle. They discovered halls too perfect to be shaped by mortal hands, forges that had cooled centuries ago, yet still smelled faintly of oil and metal. They found mechanisms buried in the walls, gears and pipes that hummed faintly, as though reluctant to sleep. And in the deepest chambers, they found statues of beings with faces calm and cruel, carved with the stillness of gods who no longer cared to be worshipped. It was the Dwemer city, Nchuand-Zel, a place of thought and metal, once filled with the hum of machines and the measured steps of those who sought to master the world through reason. But the Dwemer were gone, vanished in a breath of light and silence, leaving behind only their arrogance cast in stone. And so men came and claimed what remained. To them, Markarth was not a ruin, but a miracle, a fortress gifted by the gods, a city that needed only occupation, not creation. They built upon what was left, adding timber and brick where once there had been brass and crystal. They filled the empty halls with laughter, with shouts, with the noise of mortal life. And yet, even as they claimed it, the city resisted. Its walls did not warm easily, its corridors did not echo kindly. Markarth tolerated them, but it did not embrace them. There is a feeling in the city, one cannot name it, only feel it. It is the weight of time pressing against every breath. The sense that beneath your feet countless lives have passed, unseen but not forgotten. The Dwemer may be gone, but their will lingers, not as ghosts, but as geometry. In every perfect line, every measured angle, every bridge that spans the void, there is a philosophy of permanence, a refusal to yield. To live here is to live beneath the judgment of stone. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "The wise man is self-contained, shaped by reason, unmoved by chaos." Perhaps the Dwemer thought the same. They built their wisdom into walls, their pride into pillars, but reason, when hardened beyond compassion, becomes a prison. And the Dwemer, for all their brilliance, built theirs perfectly. Markarth still carries that lesson. It is a city of beauty and restraint, of power and silence. Its streets seem alive with tension, between what is made by men and what remains of gods, between creation and control, between endurance and understanding. The people who live here walk with a certain gravity. Their voices are quiet, their movements deliberate. It is not fear that shapes them, but awareness. They know that every wall could crush them, every path could fall away. The mountain tolerates them as one tolerates a dream, fragile, fleeting, beautiful, in its brevity. To survive here is to accept that you are a guest in something greater than yourself. The River Karth runs through the city like a vein of light, cutting through shadow and stone. Its sound never ceases. A deep, echoing roar that fills the air like the pulse of the world. Bridges span it at impossible angles, their arches gleaming with the residue of Dwemer gold. Beneath them, the water swirls dark and deep, reflecting the faint light of forges still burning in the lower halls. To look into that water is to see the city's truth, that beauty here is never gentle, and that all endurance carries a cost. There are few places in Skyrim where one feels the nearness of eternity. The throat of the world speaks it through height. The tundra speaks it through distance, but Markarth speaks it through depth. Its foundations sink into forgotten centuries, into chambers where no human voice has echoed in an age. To descend into them is to feel the hum of the world's old heart, still beating faintly beneath layers of silence and dust. The Dwemer called it animus, the spirit of the machine. But to the wise, it is simply the persistence of what once was. Time does not erase, it only buries. There is a kind of serenity in that thought, that nothing is truly lost, only hidden. The mountain does not mourn its erosion, it accepts it. The stone does not resent the chisel, it becomes through it. So too perhaps does Markarth, for every generation that has walked its streets has left something behind. A scar, a song, a whisper in the cold air. And the city, indifferent but patient, has absorbed them all. At twilight, when the sun burns low behind the peaks, the city transforms. The gold of its walls catches the dying light, and the waterfalls turn to ribbons of fire. Smoke rises from the forges, curling upward like prayer. The hum of the old machines deep below mingles with the sound of bells and footsteps, and for a brief moment, all of it, stone, water, fire, and flesh, moves as one body. It is then that the mountain seems to breathe again, as if remembering what it was to live. The people call this hour the stone's breath. They say the air grows warmer, that even the wind pauses to listen. Some say it is the Dwemer's ghost stirring beneath the earth. Others say it is the soul of the Reach itself, sighing through the veins of its oldest creation. But perhaps it is neither. Perhaps it is simply the world, reminding those who dwell here that life and death are not opposites, they are continuations. There is wisdom in the endurance of Markarth, not the kind written in books, but the kind carved by pressure and time. The kind the Stoics sought to understand, but that strength is not resistance to change, but harmony with it. The city does not fight its mountain, it is its mountain. It does not stand against the river, it channels it. It does not mourn the past, it builds upon it. That is its secret, its philosophy, its survival. And as the night descends and the city glows like a forge buried in the bones of the world, one understands why it has thus endured where so many others have fallen. Because Markarth does not defy the world, it reflects it. And in that reflection, it finds peace. The Dwemer legacy. Long before men carved their homes into the Reach, the mountains already belonged to another race, the Dwemer. They were not kings nor conquerors, but craftsmen of eternity. Where other races sought gods, the Dwemer sought geometry. They found divinity not in prayer, but in precision. And so, deep beneath the cliffs that would one day cradle Markarth, they built a city that thought like a mind and breathed like a heart. They named it Nchuand-Zel, the great city of the deep. Even now, those words carry a kind of pulse, a faint vibration in the stone, as if the name itself refuses to fade. For centuries, its halls rang with the measured rhythm of metal and steam, the cold hum of invention. Every corridor was a line of logic, every bridge a sentence in their language of design. It was a city without chance, every inch planned, every silence deliberate. The Dwemer believed that order was truth, To them, chaos was weakness, and emotion was the flaw of flesh. They built not with passion, but with purpose. Their machines were reflections of their minds, tireless, exact, unwavering. In this way, they sought to surpass the gods themselves. They did not worship creation, they replaced it, and then in a single moment, they were gone. No one truly knows what happened to the Dwemer. The scholars say, they vanished during the Battle of Red Mountain, their entire race consumed in a single act of divine logic. One moment their forges burned, the next they stood cold and silent, their hammers still raised mid-swing. Some believe they ascended, that their search for perfection led them beyond the material. Others believe they were undone by it, that in seeking to remove their souls from the world, they erased themselves instead. Whatever the truth, Markarth remains their echo. The city breathes through their lungs, hums through their veins. Every wall, every arch, every turning wheel still bears their signature, not as ornament, but as warning. Their wisdom endures, but so does their silence. To walk through the lower ruins of Markarth is to step into another kind of time. There is no decay, no softness. The air itself feels engineered. The torches burn longer here, their smoke rising straight and unbroken, as if unwilling to disturb the balance. Gears turn in the distance, powered by nothing visible, perhaps by the memory of movement itself. It is a place both dead and living. The Dwemer are gone, but their machines endure. They continue their endless tasks, indifferent to the absence of their masters. In their precision, there is something almost tragic, a beauty without warmth, like music played by an empty instrument. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "We cannot control what happens, only how we respond." The Dwemer rejected this truth. They did not seek to respond to the world, they sought to command it. They believed control could be absolute, that with enough understanding, one could silence uncertainty itself. But control is a dream that devours its dreamer. And when the Dwemer reached for eternity, eternity answered only with absence. Still, there is a kind of grace in their failure, a symmetry that the Stoics would have admired had they known it. Because even in their disappearance, the Dwemer achieved what they desired most: permanence. Their cities still stand, their machines still move, their silence still speaks. They created a legacy immune to decay, and in doing so, became immortal not in flesh, but in function. And yet, for all its brilliance, Nchuand-Zel is a melancholy place. The deeper one descends, the less one feels human. The stone seems to observe, to measure, to judge. Every sound returns as an echo of your own heartbeat, slower, heavier, until you are unsure which pulse belongs to you. Some adventurers say that the city still thinks, that it watches those who walk within it and adjusts itself accordingly. Perhaps that is only imagination, but imagination too is a kind of truth, the truth of awe. When the first Nord settlers discovered these halls, they did not understand what they had found. They saw the forges, the glowing crystals, the strange brass figures standing motionless, and they thought they had entered the realm of gods. They lit their fires within Dwemer hearths and built their beds beside the silent machines. But even as they claimed the space, they sensed the weight of what lay beneath. This was not merely a ruin, it was a monument to an idea, and ideas, once carved into stone, are not easily erased. To this day, the scholars of Markarth debate whether the Dwemer's fate was punishment or reward. Some call it divine retribution, others call it transcendence. But the city itself offers no answer. It remains what it has always been, exact, enduring, indifferent. Perhaps that is the final wisdom of the Dwemer, that the world does not need our approval to continue, and that creation, once begun, owes nothing to its creator. At dusk, when the last light filters through the cracks above and strikes the Dwemer metal, The whole ruin glows faintly. Not gold, not silver, but something in between. A color that seems both alive and ancient. The sound of water dripping from the ceiling becomes rhythm. The turning gears become breath. And, for a moment, the air feels aware. Not hostile, not welcoming, simply awake. The Stoics taught that nature itself is reason made visible, that every storm, every mountain, every silence serves a purpose. The Dwemer believed they could improve upon it. They sought to perfect what was already whole, and in doing so, they taught the rest of us a quieter truth, that to live is not to command the world, but to move in harmony with it. Above these ruins, the city of men now thrives, noisy, flawed, alive. Its fires burn unevenly, its walls crack with age, its people quarrel and dream and forget. But perhaps that imperfection is the very thing that gives it life. For perfection may endure, but only imperfection grows. The founding of Markarth. When the Dwemer vanished, their city did not die. It waited. For centuries, Nchuand-Zel slept in silence, its halls cold, its machines still breathing faintly beneath layers of dust. Snow gathered on its bridges, rivers carved new paths through its open wounds, but the mountain did not forget. The forges still whispered, faintly. And those who passed through the reach sometimes heard the echoes, a low hum, like memory trapped beneath the stone. It was in this place that the first men came, tired, wandering, half-starved from war and winter. They found shelter in the mountain's shadow. They were not conquerors then, only survivors. And in the ruins of Nchuand-Zel, they found something greater than gold, protection. The city had been waiting for them. Its walls stood unbroken, its ceilings untouched by time. Fire still burned in the lower chambers, fed by unknown engines. The settlers lit their torches from those flames and called it Providence. They named their new home Markarth Side, the city beside the mountain, though in truth it was a city within it. The first years were hard. The mountain did not welcome easily. Its tunnels twisted into madness, and the walls sometimes sang at night, low mechanical notes that made the air vibrate. Children cried, claiming to see shapes of light moving through the dark. Miners struck metal so smooth it broke their tools. And when they went too deep, they found things that were not stone, great spheres of brass, silent but watching. The elders warned them not to disturb the deeper halls. "This city remembers," they said, "and it may remember us too well." Still, the settlers endured. They patched walls, built homes from Dwemer scrap, and learned to live with the hum that never stopped. Over time, the strange sounds became familiar. Not a threat, but a rhythm, the sound of the mountain breathing. Children grew up knowing it as lullaby. Generations passed and Markarth changed. Wood and stone replaced brass and steam. Markets filled the open plazas where once Dwemer scholars had walked. Smoke rose from forges once meant for gods. And slowly, the perfection of Nchuand-Zel softened into the imperfection of humanity. Where the Dwemer sought silence, men filled it with noise. Where the Dwemer sought precision, men brought passion. And in that exchange, between stillness and song, reason and warmth, the city came alive again. But Markarth never became just a home. It remained a threshold between worlds, between races, between ways of being. The old and the new did not blend easily. The walls still bore the logic of the Dwemer, but the air now carried laughter and smoke and sin. It was no longer the city of perfection. It was the city of endurance. The reach itself shaped its people. The wind here is colder, sharper. It carries the taste of metal and memory. The soil is thin. The roots dig deep or die. The people of Markarth learned from this, to dig deep, to cling to whatever holds, to outlast even the storms that break the sky. They grew proud, strong, unyielding, not because they were fearless, but because fear had become familiar. To live here is to be in conversation with stone, to wake each morning beneath cliffs that could crush you and rise anyway, to swing the hammer not out of defiance but because the mountain demands it. In that act, there is philosophy, the kind that does not need to be spoken. The Stoics would call it amor fati, the love of one's fate, to accept not only what is given, but to love it. The people of Markarth do not worship the mountain. They live as though it is watching, and that is reverence enough. Stories say that in the earliest days, a chieftain named Hroldan the Stone Seer led the first building of the outer walls. He was not a king, only a man who could listen. They say he once spent 3 nights alone in the lower tunnels, following the sound of gears until he reached a great chamber of glass and metal. When he returned, his hair had turned white, though he was still young. He said, "The city does not want to be ruled, it wants to be remembered." So he built not upward, but outward, shaping Markarth not as a fortress, but as a mirror of the mountain. Under his guidance, homes were carved directly into the cliffs, their doors framed by Dwemer arches. Bridges spanned the roaring Karth River like veins of gold. At night, torches reflected off the water and the brass, red upon gold, fire upon silence. And the people began to believe that perhaps they were meant to be here all along, that the Dwemer had built the bones, and men were only finishing the flesh. But even in its birth, the city carried warning. For every house razed, another hall collapsed. For every mine opened, another passage awakened things that should have remained asleep. Men found carvings of faces too precise to be human, eyes that seemed to follow, hands frozen mid-reach. Some began to whisper that the Dwemer had not vanished, but become the stone itself, or some watching, waiting. Yet life continued. Fear, like the wind, simply became part of the air, and so Markarth grew, not by conquest, but by coexistence between past and present, between fear and faith. The people learned to live not in defiance of mystery, but beside it. They mined silver from the mountain's veins, knowing that for every treasure taken, something was owed in return. But they took it anyway, because survival is its own kind of prayer. Centuries later, scholars would come to call Markarth a paradox. A city built upon ruins, yet never truly rising above them. A place of beauty born from what was abandoned. But perhaps that is what makes it enduring. The Dwemer sought perfection and vanished. Men sought meaning and remained. It is imperfection, not mastery, that keeps the heart alive. The mountain, too, has accepted this truth. It no longer tries to swallow the city. It simply watches as its children, both machine and mortal, continue their slow conversation. Stone remembers metal, metal remembers fire, and fire remembers the hand that lit it. At dawn, when the mist rises from the Karth River, the city seems to breathe, half ancient, half newborn. The waterfalls turn silver, the walls shimmer with light, and the hum from below blends with the sound of hammers from above. It is a chorus of ages, dissonant yet whole. A city that has forgotten where one world ends and another begins. In this, Markarth becomes a lesson, not of power, but of patience. It teaches that even ruin can be home, that even silence can become song again, and perhaps that is the greatest kind of creation, to take what was left behind and make it live once more. The city of silver and blood. The mountain gives, and the mountain takes. Beneath Markarth, in the dark veins of the earth, rivers of silver flow like frozen light. The Dwemer carved the first tunnels, seeking energy for their machines, not wealth. But when men found those veins, they saw not purpose, only profit. They dug deeper, farther, and faster until the mountain groaned with exhaustion. What the Dwemer treated as an artery of the world, men made into a wound. It was from this wound that power was born, and from power came blood. They say Markarth's stones are soaked with it, from miners crushed by cave-ins, to rebels executed beneath its gates, to kings slain by their own ambition. Here, history and suffering share the same foundation. The forges that once sang with creation now echo with labor and chains. The same flames that once gave warmth now temper blades. Silver glitters in the torchlight, beautiful and indifferent. The White or Silverblood families rose from this crucible. Their ancestors were miners who struck the richest vein in Eastmarch. Through cunning, alliance, and ruthless will, they became rulers, not by crown, but by coin. Their motto is not written in any book, but everyone knows it. Silver buys silence, and silence keeps power. They own the mines. They own the guards who guard them. They own the cells where dissent sleeps. And in Sidna Mine, that black pit beneath the city, they own men themselves. Sidna Mine is not merely a prison. It is the city's reflection, buried beneath its feet. Above, the air smells of forge smoke and wet stone. Below, it smells of iron and sweat. Every clang of a pickaxe is a reminder that freedom here is measured by the hour. Men enter its gates as criminals and leave as ghosts. Some never leave at all. Their bones become part of the mountain, buried beneath the silver they died digging. A miner once said, "The mountain eats its children and sells their bones as treasure." He was not wrong, for in Markarth, silver is not wealth, it is confession. Each coin minted in this city carries the weight of someone's back, someone's breath, someone's silence. The Stoics would call this the folly of possession, the belief that ownership can exist without consequence. In truth, to possess is to be possessed. The Silverbloods rule their city, but they do not sleep peacefully. They see their own reflections in the silver, distorted, gleaming, endless. The more they own, the more the mountain owns them. And yet, Markarth endures. It always has. Its people live with a strange kind of dignity, one born not from comfort but from continuity. They work, they labor, they endure, as their ancestors did. They have learned that resistance is not always rebellion. Sometimes it is simply persistence, a quiet, defiant refusal to vanish. In the taverns, when the forges go dark and the fires burn low, the miners drink and speak of the stone as though it listens. They call it the Silent One. They say it remembers every word spoken beneath it, that when you die here, your voice becomes part of the mountain's echo. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it, whispering softly, like wind through the cracks. Endure. Markarth's beauty is a deception. From a distance, its walls gleam gold in the setting sun. Travelers approach with awe, thinking they see wealth. But step inside and the gold turns gray, the silver darkens, and the air grows heavy. This city does not shine, it reflects. It mirrors the heart of whoever looks upon it. For those who seek glory, it offers splendor. For those who seek peace, it offers silence. For those who seek control, it offers ruin. The philosopher Seneca wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." But in Markarth, wanting less is heresy. Here, to desire nothing is to invite suspicion. The mountain rewards hunger, not humility. The Silverbloods understand this. They feed the city's hunger with silver and stories. They say the mountain belongs to them, that their ancestors tamed it with sweat and sacrifice. But deep within its heart, the Dwemer machines still turn, slow, deliberate, indifferent. They care nothing for ownership, nothing for legacy. They move because that is what they were made to do. And in their silence, they mock the noise above. At dusk, when the sky bleeds red and gold, the waterfalls that cut through Markarth glow like molten veins. From the palace balcony, the city looks alive, a thing of beauty, carved from fire and stone. But if you listen beyond the rush of water, you can hear it. The faint rhythm of hammers below, each strike a heartbeat, each echo a prayer to endurance. Some say the mountain feeds on blood, others say it forgives it. But the truth is simpler. The mountain remembers. And remembering is the cruelest kind of forgiveness. Even in its cruelty, there is order, a kind of grim harmony. The rich rise, the poor endure, the mountain watches, and all play their part in the endless cycle. The Stoics might call it fate. The Nords call it life. The miners pray not for change, but for strength to bear what does not change. To live in Markarth is to understand that the world owes you nothing, and that every comfort is borrowed from something older and harder than you. It is to learn that peace is not freedom from struggle, but grace within it. As night falls, torches flicker against the wet stone, the streets empty, the mines quiet. For a brief moment the city holds its breath, as if waiting for something to break or to begin again. The light of the forge dies slowly, and in its last glow the walls shimmer like veins of living metal. Markarth sleeps uneasily, but the mountain never does. The forsworn uprising. Before Markarth belonged to the Silverbloods, before the Empire reclaimed its banners, it belonged to no one, and to everyone. It belonged to the people of the Reach. They were called the Reachmen, and long before the first Nord fort was raised, they lived among the crags and rivers, the forests and stone valleys. Their blood was old, older than the Empire, older even than Ysgramor's first landing. They were not a single people, but a gathering, hunters, shamans, dreamers of earth and sky. They worshipped the land itself, the breath of the wind, the pulse of the soil, the whisper of the mountain. Where others saw wilderness, they saw home. Where others saw stone, they saw spirit. But the world changes, and it seldom asks permission. When the Nords came to the Reach, they brought with them their axes, their gods, and their hunger. They carved roads where there were rivers, and raised walls where there was wind. The Reachmen resisted, not as an army, but as the mountain resists the rain, quietly, endlessly. Their defiance was not written in banners, but in blood. Yet time erodes even stone. The Nords took the Reach, built their forts, named their Jarl, and declared peace. But beneath that peace, resentment lingered like coal beneath ash. And when the Great War came, when the Empire's strength faltered, and Skyrim's soldiers marched south, the Reachmen saw their chance to reclaim what had been stolen. They rose not with armies, but with faith. From the hills they came, painted in ash and ochre, armed with nothing but conviction and the memory of loss. They took Markarth by storm, not with siege engines, but with silence. When the guards awoke, the city was already theirs. The Nords called it rebellion. The Reachmen called it return. They named their leader Madanak, the king in rags. He ruled not from a throne, but from the ruins beneath it. His crown was woven from roots and iron. His law was simple. The Reach is for its people, and none shall kneel to those who claim it by blood not born here. For 2 years, Markarth became a city of the old ways. The songs of birds replaced the toll of bells, and offerings were left at the feet of the mountain instead of the Empire's altars. The people of the Reach believed for a moment that they were free again. But freedom has a price, and peace has an enemy. When the war ended and the Empire turned its gaze north once more, it demanded the Reach's return. The Nords, weary from their own losses, saw opportunity in vengeance. They sent out Ulfric Stormcloak and his men to liberate Markarth. They promised the Reachmen mercy. They gave them fire. The battle was brief, brutal, and without witness. The streets ran with the blood of the old tribes, and the mountain echoed not with song, but with screams. Those who survived were driven back into the wilds, branded as forsworn. The Oathbreakers, the madmen of the Reach. Their name became a curse, their cause forgotten, their truth rewritten by those who held the pen. And yet they did not die. The forsworn fled into the hills into the caves and valleys their ancestors had known. There they waited, patient as the earth itself. They learned the old magics again, the words that move stone and call upon blood. They carved their symbols into the cliffs, red spirals and clawed hands, not as threats, but as memories. Every mark a wound that would not heal. To the people of Markarth, they became phantoms. To the Empire, terrorists. But to themselves, they remained what they had always been, the voices of a land that refused to forget. Years later, those whispers grew into cries. Assassins in the night, soldiers vanished on the roads, caravans burned. The Reach bled quietly, and the Silver Bloods grew rich on fear. They hired more guards, built higher walls, and filled Sidna Mine with those who spoke too loudly of the old ways. Among those imprisoned was Madanak himself, still alive, still unbroken. From his cell, he ruled a kingdom of the forgotten. They say he speaks softly, that his words are calm, deliberate, almost kind. But those who hear them too long begin to change. He reminds them of what was stolen, and in his voice the mountain speaks again. The Forsworn do not seek conquest. They seek return, not of power, but of belonging. They are a mirror of the Dwemer in their own way. One tried to master the earth, the other to merge with it. Both were consumed by what they worshipped. The difference lies in tone. The Dwemer vanished without a trace. The Forsworn leave their mark in blood. But even they have philosophers among them. Old seers who say that vengeance is a kind of chain, that to strike forever is to be forever struck. And yet, their wounds are too deep to close, their hatred too old to forget. They are bound by their suffering, and their suffering has become identity. The Stoics would have pitied them, or perhaps understood them. For what is the Forsworn's cause, if not a refusal to accept what cannot be changed? They reject their fate, and in doing so, they forge a prison out of it. Their rebellion is eternal because it is inward, and no sword can kill what lives in the mind. In this, Markarth becomes a lesson again, that freedom without wisdom is only another name for grief. To rule without compassion is to destroy, but to rebel without reason is to repeat. Both sides, in their pride, have become reflections of each other, stone against stone, echo against echo. Even now, the hills around the Reach whisper. The Forsworn are still there, unseen, unending. Their fires burn in caves beyond the watchtowers, their chants ride the wind at dusk. To the city below, they are ghosts. To the mountain, they are children returned home. And perhaps that is how it has always been. The mountain does not take sides. It endures both the hammer and the hand that wields it. It knows that victory is temporary, but memory is forever. The heart of the Reach, far from the walls of Markarth, beyond the reach of guards and banners, the land breathes differently. The wind carries no iron, no smoke, no sound of pickaxes striking stone. It moves through valleys of moss and pine, through ruins swallowed by vines, through rivers that still remember their first song. Here the mountain speaks not in thunder, but in whisper. And if you listen long enough, you can almost hear its heart. This is the Reach, the wild soul of Skyrim. The Reach is older than any kingdom, older than memory itself. Its cliffs rise like broken cathedrals, carved by gods that no longer walk the world. Mist gathers in the mornings like breath on the lips of the earth. At night the stars burn low, close enough to touch. To the Reachman, this place is not land, it is living. The soil holds spirits, the rivers carry voices, the wind bears names. They walk through it with reverence, not dominion. Their temples are circles of stone open to the sky. Their prayers are murmured to rivers and trees, not to distant thrones. Where the Nords see wilderness, the Reachmen see wisdom, a mirror of their own endurance, their own mortality. For to them, the divine is not something to be worshipped, but something to be remembered. In their stories, every stone is alive, every mountain a mind. When the thunder rolls across the peaks, they say it is the mountain's laughter. When an avalanche falls, they say it is the mountain shaking off sorrow. Their gods are not kind or cruel, they simply are. To live here is to accept that one's life is part of that rhythm, a brief spark in the long breath of the world. And in this acceptance lies a strange peace. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make of it." The Reachmen live this truth without needing to name it. They do not resist the storm, they become part of it. When the frost kills their crops, they plant again. When their homes fall, they build elsewhere. They do not ask why, they ask when. Time to them is a circle, not a road. Yet the Reach is not gentle, its beauty has teeth. Wolves prowl the ridges, hag-ravens guard the sacred groves. In hidden hollows, the briar-hearts keep their rituals. Warriors reborn through pain and sacrifice. They cut open their chests and replace their hearts with briars, believing that in surrendering the flesh, they awaken the soul. It is a brutal kind of faith, but it holds a fierce logic. To be one with nature, one must give something of oneself to it. The Nords call this savagery, but to the Reachmen, it is devotion, an offering to the living world that raised them. They do not seek immortality, they seek belonging. For even in death, they believe the mountain reclaims them, and their bones become the bedrock of tomorrow. There is a place west of the city where the cliffs form a hollow, and the air hums with unseen power. The locals call it the Hollow of Stones. No one builds there, no one mines there. The rocks themselves seem to breathe, expanding and contracting with the rhythm of the wind. When it rains, the water falls in slow, heavy drops, each one echoing like a heartbeat. Those who spend the night there claim to dream of voices speaking in forgotten tongues. The Reachmen say it is the earth remembering itself. They do not fear such things. To them, mystery is a friend. They say that the world is not meant to be understood, only respected. And in this, they are closer to truth than most scholars who write of them. To stand in the heart of the Reach is to feel the nearness of the eternal. The cliffs stretch endlessly, the rivers carve endlessly, the wind moves endlessly. Everything changes, and yet nothing does. The Stoics would find kinship here, for what is nature but the teacher of acceptance? The mountain falls, then rises again. The forest burns, then blooms. The river freezes, then flows. Each moment a death, each death a renewal. The Reachmen live in harmony with this truth. They do not cling to possessions, for the wind will take them. They do not hold grudges long, for even hatred must rest. They endure not because they are strong, but because they know they are small. To them, humility is not weakness, it is survival. Sometimes at dusk, the mists rise from the river and shroud the cliffs in silver. Campfires glow faintly through the fog, circles of warmth in a sea of cold. Old women sing to the spirits, their voices rough but steady. Children trace runes in the dirt, learning the language of their ancestors. No one rushes. Time here is patient. The city of Markarth looms to the east, its golden walls gleaming faintly in the distance. But out here, the light is softer, the silence deeper. The people who live among these hills say that Markarth has forgotten the mountain's heart, that it has traded its spirit for stone, its voice for silver. They pity it, as one pities a bird that has forgotten how to fly, and yet some still go to the city. They bring herbs, pelts, and stories. They trade with miners and guards, listening to their talk of wages and politics. They smile and they nod, and then they return to the wilds. For they know the mountain better than the market. They know that the stone beneath the city still hums with the same pulse as the stone beneath their feet, that beneath all walls and laws, there is only earth, eternal, indifferent, and alive. Perhaps this is why, despite centuries of conquest, the Reachmen have never been truly conquered. They bend, but they do not break. They lose, but they do not vanish. Because they belong not to kings or empires, but to something far older. Something that needs no defense. At night, when the stars reflect on the river's surface, the world seems to hold its breath. The wind stops, the water stills. And for a heartbeat, everything is perfectly silent. Then a single drop falls, and the world begins again. Cidhna Mine, the prison of silver deep beneath Markarth, where the echoes of the forges fade into silence, lies a wound carved into the heart of the mountain. Its name is spoken rarely and always quietly. Cidhna Mine. They say no one escapes it. They say the walls themselves are alive with listening. And they say that those who go in do not leave as the same men who entered. Cidhna is not a prison made by kings. It is a prison made by necessity, greed, and fear. Long ago, when the first veins of silver were found, the miners needed shelter from the falling rock. They hollowed the earth, built supports of wood and iron, and filled the tunnels with light. But the deeper they dug, the more they found that the light refused to follow. And in the dark, men began to vanish. So they built walls, not to keep things out, but to keep something in. The Silverbloods saw opportunity in that darkness. What better place to put one's enemies than the very ground that makes you rich? So they bought the mine, claimed it for justice, and filled it with bodies, murderers, thieves, and rebels, anyone who threatened the fragile order of the city. And beneath Markarth, the sound of pickaxes replaced the sound of judgment. The air in Cidhna is heavy. It does not move. It clings. Every breath tastes of stone and iron, of something old that never leaves the lungs. Water drips from the ceiling in slow, endless rhythm, the only measure of time that survives here. There are no seasons, no dawn, no stars, only work and sleep, until both lose their meaning. The prisoners do not speak much. Words cost air, and air is precious. When they do, their voices are low and careful, as though the walls might remember. Some hum songs from the Reach. Others whisper prayers to gods who do not listen this deep. But most have forgotten language altogether. They communicate with looks, with small nods, with the rhythm of their tools. There is a strange equality here. Every man bleeds the same color. Every man coughs the same dust. No wealth, no rank, no name survives the descent. In this way, Cidhna is almost honest, cruel, but pure. In one of the lower chambers, there is a door that leads nowhere. It is carved with the markings of the Dwemer, gears within circles, circles within eyes. No one knows what lies beyond it. Some say it leads into the old city, into halls where the machines still turn. Others say it is a tomb, sealed for reasons better left unspoken. The guards keep it locked, but the prisoners say they hear sounds beyond it, the low hum of something that never sleeps. They say that at night, when the mine is silent, the door breathes. No one questions this. In Cidhna, belief is the only form of freedom left. Among the prisoners, there is one who sits apart, an old man with gray hair and calm eyes. He is called Madanach, the king in rags. Once he ruled the Reach, now he rules the Forgotten. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. When he speaks, the clinking of chains grows quiet, and even the guards pretend not to hear. He speaks of the land, of the old ways, of freedom not as rebellion, but as remembrance. The stone remembers you, he tells them. The mountain is your mother, not your cage. The Silverbloods may own the walls, but they cannot own your will. His words are soft, but they strike deeper than any hammer. Some call him mad, others call him prophet. Perhaps both are true. The Stoics would have called him wise, for he has mastered the one realm no man can conquer, his own mind. Freedom in Cidhna is a paradox. The guards think it lies above. The prisoners find it within. Every blow of the pickaxe is meditation, every breath a test. The strongest are not those who fight the walls, but those who learn to see through them, to accept that the body may be bound, but the thought remains its own. Epictetus once wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In the darkness of Sidna, that truth takes on form. Men stripped of everything learn what cannot be taken. They stop dreaming of sunlight. They dream of silence, the silence that means the struggle is over, but not all can bear it. Some break quietly, their minds folding in upon themselves like crushed ore. They mutter to the stone, to the dripping water, to the ghosts of those who never escaped. The guards say the mine eats them. The prisoners say the mountain takes them home. Either way, the result is the same, a kind of peace that looks like surrender. Every week, new bodies arrive and others disappear. No one asks where. The living keep working, the dead keep silent, and the silver keeps flowing upward, to the families who will never see these tunnels, to the palace that gleams with light stolen from darkness. It is said that if you stand in the upper shafts at the quietest hour, you can hear the whole city breathing above you, the sound of laughter, of music, of life. It comes faintly, like memory through water. The prisoners call it the false dawn. They stop working for a moment, heads tilted toward the ceiling, eyes closed. For a few breaths, they pretend it is real. Then the guard's whistle blows, and the world resumes. In this way, the mind becomes a mirror of the city, both carved from the same stone, both built on suffering, both kept alive by motion. The only difference is that in Sidna, no one pretends to be free. At times, Madanach's followers whisper that the mine itself will one day open, that the mountain will grow tired of swallowing men and spit them back into the world. They say the Dwemer machines below are not dead, only waiting, and when they stir again, the earth will break open, and those who endured will rise renewed. It is a beautiful lie, or perhaps a prophecy, because in Markarth, truth and myth are veins of the same metal, both shine, both cut deep. When the torches burn low, and the miners lie still in their chains, the silence becomes almost holy. You can hear your own heartbeat, feel it echo against the stone, and for a moment the world feels vast again. Not a prison, but a passage. A reminder that even in the deepest dark, the mind can choose its own light. Sidna Mine is not a place of punishment. It is a place of revelation. Those who survive it do not escape, they awaken. On Nchuand-Zel and at the heart of Markarth, beneath the great arch of stone and steam, stands the seat of power, Understone Keep. It is not a castle in the way of other holds. There are no banners fluttering in the wind, no courtyards filled with song. Instead, there are walls that breathe, pipes that whisper, and shadows that seem to move on their own. It is a fortress, yes, but also a tomb, a Dwemer ruin, repurposed by those who came too late to understand it. From the moment you step inside, you can feel it. The air hums faintly, like the low voice of something vast and unseen. Steam hisses from cracks in the floor, condensing into small clouds that drift toward the ceiling. The light comes not from torches, but from the glow of old mechanisms, silent lamps that have burned for centuries without fuel. And above it all, the sound of the river Karth echoes through the halls, a distant roar that reminds even kings that the world outside never sleeps. The Jarl's throne sits upon a dais of polished metal, its surface carved with symbols no Nord can read. Every time a ruler sits there, they feel the hum through the seat, faint, constant, alive. Some say it is the heartbeat of the city. Others whisper that it is the Dwemer still watching from below, their patience endless. The Jarl pretends not to hear it, but the hum does not care for pretense. It continues, as it always has. In the throne room, time feels different. The walls bend sound in strange ways. Voices echo where they should not, footsteps fade before they end. Even laughter dies quickly here. Power does not speak loudly in Understone Keep. It listens, it watches. The rulers of Markarth have learned this over generations. They sit beneath ceilings too high for comfort, on thrones not truly their own, surrounded by history that never sleeps. They hold counsel, they give orders, they sign decrees, and all the while the city hums beneath them, as if reminding them that it existed long before they did and will exist long after they are gone. Behind the throne there is a passage, narrow, winding, lined with ancient metal veins that pulse faintly in the dark. Follow it far enough and you will reach the Dwemer's Museum, a labyrinth curated by Calselmo, the city's scholar and high authority on Dwemer knowledge. He has spent his life trying to decipher their secrets, and in doing so has become another kind of prisoner. His halls are filled with relics, broken gears, bronze masks, scrolls of impossible diagrams. He walks among them like a priest among saints, murmuring to himself in a language he almost understands. To him, the Dwemer are not ghosts but puzzles, an intellect that never truly died. Yet in his obsession, he has inherited their flaw. He seeks to understand what was never meant to be understood, and in that pursuit, he too has begun to vanish, not from the world, but into it. There is something stoic in his solitude, the calm of one who has accepted that the truth may never be found. But there is also tragedy, because wisdom without warmth is just another kind of silence. The keep itself is built like a paradox, half human, half machine. Pipes carry steam through its walls, feeding unseen engines. Waterfalls pour through chasms that vanish into blackness. Every corridor feels purposeful, but no one remembers what that purpose was. The guards patrol without understanding the ground they walk upon. They are soldiers in a living organism whose body predates them by centuries. And yet, for all its strange life, the keep is quiet. The silence here is not empty, it is full of thought, of memory, of ghosts without faces. You can almost feel the Dwemer's eyes in the stone, watching as the Nords repeat their old mistake, mistaking control for understanding. The current Jarl walks these halls with heavy steps. He rules a city of miners, merchants, and rebels, but he knows that true power does not rest in his throne. It rests in the patience of the mountain. Every decree he gives is measured by that knowledge. Every silence he holds is heavy with it. He has learned, perhaps without knowing it, what the Stoics called apatheia, the calm acceptance of what cannot be changed. He knows that to govern Markarth is not to rule it, but to balance upon it, like a man standing on a living beast. The moment he believes the city is his, the mountain will remind him otherwise. Visitors often remark that Understone Keep feels sacred, not because of worship, but because of awareness. The Dwemer built their halls to last forever, and so every sound feels like an intrusion into eternity. The drip of water, the crackle of fire, the whisper of boots, all of it feels temporary, fragile, wrong. You begin to walk softer, to speak lower, as though afraid to wake something ancient. In a way, that fear is reverence, and reverence, as the Stoics taught, is the first step toward wisdom. To recognize your smallness within vastness, to understand that power is borrowed, not owned. At night, when the city above sleeps, the keep grows quieter still. Only the river speaks, its voice deep and endless, flowing through the pipes and chambers, weaving through the old machines like breath through lungs. It is said that the Dwemer used this same sound to measure time. To them, the river was not water, but rhythm, a reminder that all things move, even in stillness. The guards, half asleep, sometimes claim they hear other sounds beneath it, a low chorus, mechanical and mournful, as if the walls themselves are humming to the current. Perhaps it is only imagination, or perhaps somewhere in the dark, The Dwemer still remember what they built. Understone Keep stands as Markarth's paradox made stone, a fortress of control built atop a foundation of chaos, a place of order above a heart that still hums with mystery. Here kings reign over ghosts, and scholars chase echoes of vanished gods. It is both monument and warning that all mastery fades and all power eventually becomes archaeology. As dawn rises, the first light filters through the cracks in the roof, catching the steam that rises from the vents below. For a moment, the whole keep glows, not with warmth, but with the faint gold of awareness, a living city remembering itself. And somewhere beneath the hum, beneath the throne and the scholar's study, the machines continue to turn, slow, steady, and eternal. The echoes below, beneath, under stone. Keep, beyond the last torch and the last breath of air that still remembers sunlight, there is another world. It does not welcome, nor does it warn. It simply is. This is the realm of the Dwemer, the deep city, the machine that still dreams. They call it Nchuand-Zel. Though the name feels wrong in a human mouth, it is not a word meant to be spoken. It is a vibration meant to be felt. The descent begins quietly. Steps carved from ancient stone spiral downward, their edges worn smooth by centuries of water and dust. The deeper you go, the less you hear of the city above. The wind vanishes, the river fades. All that remains is the hum, low, constant, unending. It is not noise, but presence, like the heartbeat of something vast and sleeping. Light behaves strangely here. It does not travel in straight lines. It bends, reflects, lingers. The walls themselves seem to absorb it, as though reluctant to give it back, and in that dimness you begin to see the truth. The Dwemer did not build their halls into the mountain. They built the mountain around them. Every arch, every pipe, every mechanism is part of a single organism, a mind of metal and stone that once thought in perfect rhythm. No one knows how deep the ruins go. Some say the lower levels stretch to the roots of Nirn itself. Others say there is no end, that the Dwemer tunneled not into earth, but into their own design, a spiral without center or surface. Whatever the truth, to wander here is to lose the sense of up and down, before and after. Time becomes circular. Every step feels both forward and back. The first sound you hear, after hours of silence, is metal against metal, faint, deliberate, rhythmic, a sound too precise to be accidental. Follow it long enough and you find them, the Zabo automatons, the guardians of the forgotten. They move slowly, gracefully, with purpose undiminished by the centuries. Their eyes glow with the same cold fire as the stars. They do not attack unless you intrude upon their function, and even then they do so without anger, without haste. They simply resume their task. To them, you are not threat or trespasser. You are anomaly. Watching them, one begins to understand the Dwemer's vision and their downfall. To live without emotion is to live without meaning. These machines endure perfectly, yet they do not exist. They are movement without thought, action without purpose. The Stoics spoke of the balance between reason and passion, but the Dwemer cut the thread completely, and in doing so, they achieved not enlightenment, but absence. Further below, the air grows warm, pipes hum with unseen energy, and the walls glisten with condensation that drips like slow rain. There is a room, vast, circular, cathedral-like, where the sound of the machines merges into harmony. It is said to be the central dynamo, the heart of Nchuand-Zel. No light reaches it, yet the air itself glows faintly, as if illuminated by memory alone. Here, the silence is different. It is not emptiness, it is intention. You can almost feel the thoughts that once moved through these halls, echoes of minds that refuse to stop thinking, even when they cease to breathe. Some travelers claim to hear voices in the hum, not words, but suggestions, questions perhaps, or regrets. Among the ruins, there are carvings, lines and spirals, etched into the walls with impossible precision. Some scholars believe they are mathematical formulas, others think they are music, written for an audience that no longer exists. When the wind passes through the deeper chambers, it produces tones so low they can be felt in the bones. Stand long enough, and you begin to feel your heartbeat align with it. It is a dangerous piece, the kind that forgets to end. The philosopher Aurelius once wrote, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." The Dwemer sought that harmony and mistook it for control. But the true universe does not need control. It needs only rhythm. And in these depths, that rhythm remains, steady as stone, cold as logic, alive long after its creators are dust. There are places here where the stone looks melted, as if fire once walked these halls. The ceiling is blackened, the air heavy with the ghost of heat. Some say this is where the Dwemer ended, a moment of divine collapse, when their understanding outgrew their existence. Perhaps their machines witnessed it. Perhaps they still remember. Perhaps that is what the hum truly is, remembrance without grief. For what could be more stoic than that, to endure even after meaning has vanished? No one knows how far down the tunnels go. The few who have returned from the lowest chambers speak of doors that open themselves, of lights that flicker in time with their heartbeat, of whispers that sound almost human. They speak of a statue, vast, unfinished, its face smooth and blank, its hands reaching upward as if toward a sky it can no longer find. They say standing before it feels like standing before one's own reflection. But the Dwemer do not answer questions, they only echo them. It is said that the mountain itself dreams of this place, that when the snow falls too heavy and thunder rolls through the peaks, the earth remembers the hum of Nchuand-Zel. Perhaps that is why the city above trembles during certain storms, why the miners hear strange vibrations in the stone. The Dwemer's legacy was not destroyed, it was absorbed. Markarth stands not upon their ruins, but upon their memory. And so the living walk above the dead, and the dead hum beneath the living, each unaware of how near they truly are. At last, when you ascend again, through winding tunnels, past silent machines and sleeping halls, the air grows cooler, the sound of the river returns, and the faint light of the surface begins to shimmer through cracks in the stone. You realize how loud the world above truly is, how impatient, how fragile. In the depths, the Dwemer achieved what men never will, stillness without death. The blood of the Reach. The stones of Markarth are old, older than kings, older than crowns. But there is one thing older still, the blood that has soaked into them. Every war leaves its mark, but here the scars never heal. They layer upon each other like sediment in the mountain. The Dwemer vanished. The Reachmen rose and fell. The Nords claimed, lost, and claimed again. Each believed the land was theirs, and each left behind the same red proof that it was not. To walk the streets of Markarth is to tread upon history, not written, but buried. The river Karth still runs bright and cold, but when the sun sets, its water gleams faintly crimson, as though the mountain remembers. The people of the Reach have long said that Markarth is cursed, that its wealth is built upon betrayal, and its walls are sealed with promises broken. The priests deny it, the scholars dismiss it, but the miners, the guards, the beggars, they know, because the curse is not magic, it is memory. Every empire that holds Markarth begins with justice and ends with silence. Every rebellion starts with freedom and ends with chains. And through it all, the mountain watches, unblinking. It has no need to punish. It only endures long enough to see men punish themselves. There was once a soldier who said, "Markarth is a city that eats its heroes." He was not wrong. Its halls have seen kings who sought glory, scholars who sought truth, rebels who sought peace, all swallowed by the same stone. They come with purpose, they leave with ghosts. The Mammon forsworn still hide in the hills, their children raised on stories of vengeance that sound too much like prayers. They say the Reach belongs to them, but the truth is harsher. The Reach belongs to no one. It does not know borders. It does not know loyalty. It knows only endurance. Above ground, the Silverbloods still rule. Their minds still feed the city. Their gold still buys silence. They speak of law and order, but their justice has the shape of profit. They say the mountain yields because they command it, but anyone who has stood beneath its shadow knows better. The mountain yields to no one. It gives only what it chooses to give, and it takes back what it pleases. Below, in the deep tunnels, the prisoners strike their picks against the walls. Every blow sends tremors through the city, as though the dead themselves are knocking from beneath, reminding the living that peace built on pain cannot stand forever. In the taverns, old men still whisper about Ulfric Stormcloak and the Markarth incident. They remember how his men retook the city from the Forsworn and how he demanded the right to worship Talos in return. They remember how the Empire agreed and then recanted, and how, for that betrayal, another war was born. It began here, in this city, in these streets where silver and blood are the same color. Markarth was not the cause of Skyrim's rebellion, but it was the spark. A flame struck upon stone, the same stone that had seen it all before. The Stoics taught that history is not a circle, but a wheel. It turns not because we will it, but because it must. Each generation thinks it stands apart from the last, but the wheel does not care for such illusions. It moves because it must move, and those who stand still beneath it are crushed. Markarth is that wheel made visible. Its stones grind endlessly, shaping the lives of those who walk upon them. A jarl's command, a miner's breath, a prisoner's whisper, all are drawn into the same motion. To resist it is to break. To understand it is to endure. And yet, even here, in this city of old wounds, there is something beautiful. For every act of cruelty, there is a gesture of grace. For every betrayal, a moment of kindness unnoticed. The guards share their bread with beggars. The miners sing to each other through the dust. A woman lights a candle at dusk for a husband lost in the mines, not because she believes he will return, but because light must exist somewhere. These small mercies do not erase the city's sins. They redeem them quietly, like rain softening dried blood. There is a story told by the elders of the Reach that long ago, when the Dwemer still ruled the depths, they forged a machine to measure the worth of men. It could weigh hearts, count deeds, judge souls. But when they turned it on, it broke. Not from flaw, but from confusion. It could not decide whether the blood that built cities made them holy or cursed. And so the machine fell silent. It learned, perhaps, what men never did, that the same blood that stains the earth also keeps it alive. At sunset, the city glows. The waterfalls turn gold, the streets shimmer with heat, and for a moment, everything looks clean. The sound of hammers fades, the air cools, and you can almost believe the mountain is at peace. But then the light fades, and the torches flicker back to life, and the hum of the machines returns from below. Soft, steady, eternal. Markarth is not at war. It is never at peace. It simply continues. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from another beginning's end." If that is true, then Markarth has never truly begun. It has only remembered itself again and again. Each age thinks it is the first to build upon these stones, and each forgets that the stones were once graves. The mountain watches, the river flows, the silver gleams. And somewhere in the dark, another hand begins to bleed against the wall, writing history in the only ink that lasts. The Philosopher of Stone. He is not a priest nor a scholar. He has no name that matters. To most in Markarth, he is simply the old man by the bridge, the one who sits by the river every morning, watching the water pass through the heart of the city. Some say he was once a miner, others say a soldier. He never says. And perhaps it no longer matters. He rises with the sun, though the light here never truly reaches the stone. He carries a small cup of mead, and he sits upon a flat rock polished smooth by years of waiting. He watches the city breathe, the smoke from the forges, the shimmer of the waterfalls, the guards changing shifts like clockwork. Every movement above feels like an echo of something older below. He listens to it all, and in that listening, he has found peace. The old man has lived through wars he did not fight and revolutions he did not choose. He has seen kings come and go, banners raised and burned. Once, he says, he shouted in the streets for freedom. Once he believed in justice carved into stone, but the stone outlasted his voice, as it always does. Now he no longer seeks to change the city, he simply bears witness to it. Stone remembers, he says to anyone who asks why he stays. Someone should remember it back. He is not bitter. If anything, he is gentle. His words soft, deliberate, shaped by patience. He speaks as the mountain might if it ever learned to whisper. Sometimes children stop to speak with him. They ask why he stares at the river so long. He smiles, points to the water, and says, "Because it never argues." They laugh, not understanding, but when they leave, they glance back, and for a moment, they see what he sees. The city reflected in motion, the firelight of the forges flickering across the current like stars that forgot their place in the sky. He tells them stories, not of heroes or battles, but of simple things, of a miner who sang to the stone until it softened, of a Dwemer who tried to count every star and lost his mind halfway through, of a woman who baked bread in the shadow of the mine, each loaf shaped like the mountain that sustained and devoured her family. None of the stories have endings. He says endings are for those who still believe in beginnings. At night, when the torches flare and the sky above the reach burns with frost fire, he walks the narrow streets, past the market stalls now silent, past the inn where the drunks murmur like fading ghosts, past the shrine of Talos, where prayers echo louder than answers. He walks not out of need, but out of rhythm. The city moves, and he moves with it. He is part of its machinery now, a small, harmless cog turning quietly in the great wheel of time. Sometimes he stops before the great doors of Understone Keep. He listens to the hum that comes from beneath, the low vibration that seeps through the metal hinges and into the air. It sounds like thought. It sounds like memory. And he wonders, do the Dwemer still dream somewhere below, dreaming of perfection, while the imperfect above them continue to live? Then he smiles, because he knows the answer does not matter. Whether the Dwemer dream or not, the mountain endures. Whether men rise or fall, the mountain endures. And if endurance is divinity, then the mountain has always been God. One night, a young guard finds him sitting by the river, wrapped in his old cloak, unmoving. For a moment, the guard thinks him dead, but the old man opens one eye and says, "You walk too loudly for a city like this." The guard laughs awkwardly, unsure how to reply. They speak for a while, about duty, about exhaustion, about the feeling that life here never changes. The old man listens, nodding. Then he says softly, "It's not the city that doesn't change. It's the part of you that hasn't learned to see it differently." The guard frowns, confused. But later, when he returns to his post and hears the waterfalls, he notices for the first time how each sound is slightly different from the last, how the rhythm shifts, how the mist glows in new patterns under torchlight. He smiles. The old man was right. In time, the old man's visits to the river become less frequent, his steps slow, His mead remains half full, but even when he does not come, people say they still hear his voice in the rush of water, soft, thoughtful, patient. The children who once laughed now bring flowers to the stone where he sat. They do not cry. They sit for a while, listen to the city breathe, and feel, without words, what he meant. They say that after his death, the stone where he sat grew warm for 3 days and 3 nights. That moss began to grow upon it in the shape of a hand. That when it rained, the water flowed around the rock, not over it. Some say it was coincidence. Others say it was gratitude. Perhaps the mountain, after all these years, had found someone who finally listened long enough to be heard. And so, the philosopher of stone became part of the city, not in memory, but in rhythm. The miners hum his words when the shafts grow dark. The guards repeat his phrases when fear creeps in. Even Calselmo, alone in his study, sometimes pauses when the pipes hum and says quietly, "Yes, I hear you." No one builds statues of him, no one writes his name in books, but Markarth remembers, and in the long hum of the mountain his thought continues, simple, quiet, enduring. The stone does not seek peace. It simply is peace. We only forget how to listen. The stone and the sky. There is a place above Markarth where the wind forgets its name, where the cliffs open into sky and the river becomes a thread of silver far below. It is said that if you climb high enough into the reach, you will hear the world breathe, slow, patient, eternal. Up there, even time seems reluctant to move. Only the mountain endures. From here, the city looks small, a cluster of golden veins pulsing faintly against the stone, the waterfalls glimmering like distant candles. The hum of the Dwemer machines cannot reach this height. The shouts of men dissolve into wind. Everything that felt so heavy below, power, debt, revenge, memory, becomes light, almost weightless, as if the mountain at last has forgiven itself. The sky above the reach is not empty. It is full of motion, of slow-turning clouds, of hawks riding the thermals with effortless grace. It does not care for the wars below. It has watched every empire rise and fade, and it has never once asked why. The old philosophers of High Rock once said that the gods live in the sky because they crave perspective, because from here, the tragedies of mortals look like ripples in water, beautiful, inevitable, and brief. But the Reachmen say the opposite, that the gods buried themselves in stone because they envied our impermanence, that to be eternal is to be exiled from change. Some truths cannot be chosen between. Perhaps both are real, perhaps neither. At this height, words lose meaning. Breath becomes prayer without intent. The wind moves through your lungs and leaves as silence. You begin to understand the Dwemer's longing for order, not as arrogance, but as yearning for stillness. You understand the Reachman's faith, not as madness, but as love for what refuses to last. And you understand the Nord's strength, not as pride, but as refusal to kneel to impermanence. Each belief, each civilization, is simply a way of saying, I was here, I tried to make sense of the noise. The Stoics, in their quiet clarity, said much the same. That to live is to act in accordance with nature, to accept the storm without cursing the rain, to die without fearing the cold. From this height, their wisdom is not philosophy. It is landscape. There are ruins here too, half swallowed by snow. Old watchtowers, the remnants of outposts built when the Empire thought it could tame the Reach. Their stones are cracked, their banners long gone. The wind passes through their empty windows like breath through broken ribs. And still, they stand. This is the paradox of the Reach. Everything falls, and yet nothing fails. The ruins endure not because they resist, but because they have stopped resisting. They belong to the mountain again, to the silence that birthed them. To look upon them is to feel something wordless stir inside you, a small, humble understanding that the world is not cruel, only vast. And we, in our brief lives, are not insignificant. We are part of its rhythm. The same wind that erodes the cliffs also fills our lungs. The same river that carves the valleys also quenches our thirst. We are not apart from the world. We are its echo. Far below, the Karth River threads through the canyons, its voice carried upward by the wind. It sounds almost human, a whisper of grief, a murmur of endurance. It is the same river that runs through the city, the same one that mirrors its walls in trembling light, the same one that carries the ashes of miners and kings alike into the sea. It remembers everything, and it judges nothing. Perhaps that is the closest thing to mercy. At sunset, the world turns gold. The sky deepens to fire, and the peaks catch flame in the dying light. The mountain glows as though lit from within, and for a brief, impossible moment, stone and sky become the same thing. Boundaries dissolve. The eternal meets the ephemeral, and neither asks the other to change. It is a rare thing to see the world without dividing it into above and below and past and present, us and them. To see it as one continuous breath, rising and falling, endlessly beginning, endlessly ending. That is the wisdom of the mountain. That is the secret Markarth has whispered since the first hammer struck its walls. When night falls, the stars appear one by one, cold, distant, yet familiar. The wind carries the scent of stone and snow, and the hum of the deep city fades into memory. Somewhere far below, torches flicker, and the people of Markarth sleep, dreaming of silver and sunlight. But up here, the mountain does not dream. It simply exists. Silent, patient. The philosopher of stone would have understood. The Stoics said that a man cannot control the world, only his thoughts within it. But perhaps the mountain would disagree. Perhaps the mountain would say, "Your thoughts are the world. For a moment, you are its witness, and that is enough." And when dawn returns, and the first light spills across the peaks, you realize that the hum never truly stopped. It is in the wind, in the heartbeat of the earth, in the quiet pulse beneath your ribs. It was never the sound of machines, it was the sound of continuity, the song of stone remembering the sky. The sound of the deep. There is a sound beneath Markarth that is older than law and older than loyalty. It is not the clank of pick or the shout of men. It is a tone, low, patient, and precise, that threads through the stone like a single, unending sentence. The scholars call it resonance. The miners call it the mountain's hum. The old men who have sat by the river for decades simply call it the sound of the deep. Calcelmo speaks of it in careful sentences, his robes dusty with brass filings and old parchment. To him, the hum is a problem to be measured, a variable to be reduced. He records frequencies and charts harmonics, draws spirals and lists, and walks the museum halls muttering half-formulas under his breath. He imagines the Dwemer as engineers of tone, that in their obsession with geometry, they discovered how to make stone sing. It is a pleasing theory, the idea that the world might be coaxed into music by a clever arrangement of brass and crystal. But for all his charts, Calcelmo never quite captures the quiet that fills the tunnels when the hum shifts, as if something below is listening back. There are other theories. Some say the sound is the memory of the Dwemer machines, a residual pattern echoing through gears and pipes, like an old prayer. Others claim it is the voice of the Falmer, twisted by centuries underground until their speech reconstituted itself as tone rather than sentence. There are even those who insist it is the mountain speaking, complaining, forgiving, or simply reciting the slow arithmetic of geology. None of these explanations must be wrong. They may all be right in part. The deep is generous in its ambiguity. To stand in the lowest galleries on a night when the torches are low is to feel the sound enter your bones. At first it is only pressure, a suggestion of tone felt at the teeth rather than the ear. Then it becomes rhythm, and the rhythm shapes thought. The deeper tones lull the mind, the higher harmonics prick it awake. It is like listening to a language one has nearly forgotten. Meaning hovers at the edge of comprehension and vanishes when you reach for it. The Dwemer used tone deliberately. Tonal architecture, the subtle craft of arranging stone, metal, and voice so that the world itself will bend to a pattern, runs through their ruined halls like a ley line. They tuned rooms to resonate at particular notes, designed columns to reflect and focus, carved symbols that functioned as acoustic lenses. Where they could not forge gates of brass, they fashioned gates of sound. Doors opened by the right frequency, locks undone by a phrase hummed in the right register. This is not myth. Calcelmo's notes contain careful diagrams, sketches of angular resonators, and the record of experiments that sing when the scholar strikes them with a copper mallet. But tone, like power, requires humility. Tonal architecture is not magic that obeys a single will. It is a conversation between structure and force, an agreement negotiated between material and motion. The Dwemer pursued mastery. They wished to order the earth until it spoke only the sentences they desired. In the end, the conversation did not yield a monologue. It left an echo, and echoes are not loyal. Some nights, Calcelmo invites apprentices to listen. He instructs them to stand very still, to breathe only after the hum and not during it, to feel their skulls as if they were instruments being tuned. The apprentices obediently close their eyes and listen, and for an hour they speak of patterns and intervals, of mathematics that cross between art and ritual. Then one of them will look up, pale and small, and say, "It felt as if something below remembered me." Calcelmo smiles and records the note in his ledger. He writes, as scholars do, to keep the world from vanishing into forgetfulness. Below the lowest galleries lie rooms that no man maps anymore. They are chambers of scale, great concavities hewn to hold sound, like a cauldron holds water. Here there are instruments that are no longer meant to be played, great resonant plates and hollow orbs of alloy suspended on chains. Their surfaces are scratched with the hands of a people who measured the heavens against brass, who listened for patterns in thunder and tried to write them down in metal. When the current shifts, when the right vibration passes through them, they answer. A chord blooms, low and pure, and the whole room exhales. The Falmer, who once lived in the light but retreated to the deep, have their own relationship with the deep. Where the Dwemer engineered tone through calculation, the Falmer learned tone by hunger and adaptation. Long subterranean years reworked their speech. Intonation replaced syntax. Their laments became long notes, their curses unresolved intervals. Survivors of a bygone twilight, they learned to craft voice into shield and spear, to bend sound so that it obscured, disoriented, and finally protected. So when miners speak of nightmarish harmonics, a wail that makes your bones ache or a low throb that steals your breath, some know that those are not machines but voices, old as sadness, young as hunger. Yet the sound of the deep is not only threat, it is also memory, and memory is a kind of mercy. Think of a tune a mother hums to a child while mending a cloak. It is small, private, and yet it is a map for the child's days. So too does the deep hum the histories of the reach, seam by seam, face by face, the sequence of births, betrayals, births again. Listen closely, and you might discern the cadence of a threshing, the silence of a funeral, the rattle of a forge. The stone holds such things better than flesh does. It is less cruel, perhaps, because it does not forget. There were incidents, petty curiosities, and grave dangers when the sound altered a mind. Travelers who lingered too long report waking with memories not their own. A miner's chant, A Dwemer engineer's notation, a child's cry from a century past. A merchant once stood in the gallery and wept, claiming he remembered a face he had never seen, the carved expression on an ancient automaton. Calcelmo wrote this down too, and cautioned against prolonged exposure. He speaks of the deep the way a physician speaks of a contagion, useful for study, dangerous for the soul. And yet, for all its hazard, there is healing in the deep. Prisoners brought to Sidna who spent a night in the lower listening chambers emerged quieter, less desperate. They did not claim miracles. They simply spoke less of escape and more of the future. It was as if the tone seemed them back together in different places. The rhythm made their complaints smaller and their resolve more coherent. The sound did not free them, it reframed them. This is the paradox the Dwemer never solved. Tone can both bind and unbind. It can lock a door shut with a single frequency and open a mind with the same. Power, the Stoics warned, is a blunt instrument in untrained hands. The Dwemer misplaced the trainer. In their hunger for control, they forgot the art of listening. There are nights when the hum rises until it feels almost musical, and a thin line of people gather at the museum steps to watch the waterfall glow. They bring no tools and no books. They come to feel that strange negotiation between stone and sound, to sense for a moment that their lives are part of a broader pattern. Children press their palms against cold brass and then laugh because the metal answers them with a tiny echo. Elders close their eyes and let the tone fold them small. It is a form of communion without creed. Calcelmo sometimes pauses in those crowds. He watches the way the hum lifts a young mother's face, notices the way a veteran straightens when a certain harmonic passes, remembers his instruments as if they were old friends. He touches the ledger in his hand like a talisman, and then, for a beat, sets it aside. There are questions the ledger cannot hold. There are resonances the pen cannot trace. Once, in the dead of winter, a storm struck the Reach with a violence that rattled windows and toppled chimneys. In the hours after, with snow piled high and the town hushed, those attuned to the deep heard the hum change. It deepened, then stuttered, then resolved into a tone none had recorded before. Calcelmo worked for days, trying to replicate the sequence, fearing some shift in the subterranean order, but it never repeated. It passed like a word in a speech, meaningful only in that moment. The scholar wrote, "The mountain has a tongue but speaks rarely. We are blessed and cursed to be in earshot." If the Dwemer engineered worlds by grammar, the lesson of the deep is less about grammar than about listening. It teaches that knowledge without the restraint of reverence degrades into hubris. It teaches that phenomena can be named and charted and still keep secret the breadth of their meaning. To stand in the galleries, to feel the sound, move through your chest and leave you different, is to touch a truth ancient and simple, that existence is a composition, a multi-voiced piece in which we are both instrument and audience. When you leave the lowest galleries, climb the steps where light returns, and breathe air that tastes of sun rather than iron, you carry the deep inside you like a weight. It is not a burden so much as a reminder that beneath commerce, below law, under the daily claims of ownership, there is a longer music, patient, indifferent, and continuous. And if you are willing to listen, you might find that your small human griefs align with those notes and become, for a breath, part of something larger. The children of the Reach. At dawn, when the fog still clings to the rooftops and the forges are only beginning to glow, Markarth sounds different. Not the hammering of iron or the calls of merchants, but the light, uncertain noise of laughter. It comes from the small alleys between the lower terraces, where the river meets the stone, where children play among the cracks of the ancient city. They have made toys from the remnants of other ages. A Dwemer gear becomes a wheel for a wooden cart. A broken pipe becomes a trumpet. The smooth metal spheres that once fit into the joints of great machines are now used in simple games of throwing and catching. They do not understand what these objects once meant, and that is precisely why they can play with them. They are not burdened by the reverence of ruin. The older men watch from the bridges, shaking their heads, smiling despite themselves. Let them play, one says. They remind the stone how to laugh. These are the children of miners, of guards, of women who sell bread in the square, and of those whose ancestors were called forsworn. No one asks too loudly which blood runs in which veins. The mountain has seen enough division. In the schools built near the temple steps, the children recite lessons together. Nord names beside Reachman songs, imperial histories alongside the half-forgotten tales of the hills. Their voices mix, and for a moment, even the echoes sound content. There is a girl named Isla, whose father works in the forges and whose mother tends the goats above the river. Every evening, when the sun turns the walls gold, she brings a small loaf of bread to the guards at the gate, not because they are hungry, but because she says the stone looks lonely when everyone goes inside. No one taught her that. She simply listens, and in her listening, she has learned kindness. The people of Markarth once measured their worth by what they could endure. Now, slowly, they begin to measure it by what they can build. A new market rises on the upper terraces, a gathering place made from old stone and new timber. There, the merchants' children learn to read and write between sales. They write not oaths or decrees, but stories, of dragons they've never seen, of machines that talk, of rivers that can remember your name. An old Reachman woman teaches them the ancient runes, not as magic, but as meditation. Each mark, she tells them, is a way of breathing. When the children trace the spiral that means endurance, their small hands move slowly, reverently. She tells them that the mountain taught this shape to the first people. It means not resistance, but return. To endure, she says, is to come back again. Sometimes the wind brings the hum of the deep into the streets. It vibrates faintly through the bridges and walls. The children stop and listen. Some say it sounds like the ocean. Others say it sounds like someone singing very far away. One boy claims he can hear words in it. He says it is the voice of the mountain telling him not to be afraid. The others laugh, but the boy only smiles and closes his eyes. There is a strange serenity in his face, the kind that cannot be taught. In the evenings, when the miners return from the shafts, their children run to meet them, their small feet echoing in the narrow streets. The men carry dust on their skin, silver in their hair, and fatigue in their bones. But when they lift their children, the dust becomes glitter in the last light, and for a moment the city feels lighter. At the Silverblood Inn, the older miners gather, drinking in silence that is not sorrow, but gratitude. They speak of the old rebellions, of friends who did not come back, and of the strange feeling that the city has begun to breathe again. One of them says, "Maybe the mountains learned something from us after all." Another replies, "No, lad, we've learned from it." They laugh quietly. It is not the laughter of joy, but of understanding. The children of the Reach do not know the weight of old hatred. They know only that their city hums and that their parents still sing while they work. They see the world not in borders, but in paths. To them, the Dwemer ruins are not warnings, but playgrounds. They run through the arches that once framed gods of metal and imagine them as gates to other worlds. They pick wildflowers from cracks in the old stone and leave them in corners where no one looks, small offerings to the ghosts they do not fear. A Stoic might say this is wisdom without philosophy, a harmony lived, not named. Where the elders speak of fate, the children speak of possibility. They do not ask what the mountain demands. They simply live in its shadow as though it were a companion, not a warden. There is a young apprentice named Darian who works under Calselmo in the Dwemer Museum. He is only 17, curious and patient, and unlike his master, he does not take notes. He listens. When he hears the hum beneath the floors, He closes his eyes and hums back softly. Sometimes the tone changes as if answering. He tells no one this. He simply smiles, believing that maybe the deep is not something to understand, but something to befriend. One evening, Calcelmo catches him doing it. The old scholar opens his mouth to scold him, but then pauses. He hears the boys hum a line perfectly with the machine's resonance. For a moment, the air around them feels lighter. The pipes stop vibrating. Everything is still. Then the tone resumes, a little warmer, almost human. Calcelmo says nothing. He just walks away, and that night, he writes in his ledger, "Perhaps the mountain responds only to those who do not seek to own it. In the upper terraces, a new generation of guards trains in the yard. Their instructor, once a soldier in the Markarth incident, tells them not of glory but of restraint. When you draw your sword, he says, do it as though you were cutting through your own fear." He does not speak of victory, he speaks of calm. And the young ones listen, for they have seen what anger leaves behind, and they no longer mistake noise for strength. One winter morning, snow falls thick and silent over the city. The river slows, the hammers quiet, and the children emerge laughing, their footprints stitching patterns across the frozen bridges. From the cliffs above, the wind carries the low hum of the mountain, and for once, it harmonizes perfectly with the laughter below. For a breath, Markarth feels whole. Not as it was, not as it will be, but as it is. In that moment, you can almost believe the mountain is listening, and perhaps, in its own patient language, it is. The Dreaming Mountain. I have been here before you, and I will be here after you. You call me mountain, but I am older than the word itself. Before your kind built walls or names I was sound, pressure in the dark, the first hum beneath the stars. The Dwemer came, and I let them carve their questions into my skin. They called me foundation, engine, God. I did not answer, not because I could not, but because I had already spoken, in silence. When they vanished, I did not mourn them. Their cities sank into me like raindrops into stone. Their machines still hum, not because I remember them, but because memory is what I am. Every echo that ever passed through my halls still travels, not forward, but inward. The sound never stops, it simply turns. The Reachmen called me spirit, the Dwemer called me system, the Nords call me stone. They all touch the same truth from different sides of the same mountain. I have seen their dreams. They think of eternity as something they can hold. They do not understand. Eternity is the act of letting go. When they bleed upon my slopes, I take their blood into my dust. When they bury their dead in my caverns, I take their bones into my weight. I do not judge, I only absorb. The difference between grave and root is a matter of patience. Sometimes I sleep. My sleep is not absence, but gathering, a deep listening. When storms roll through the peaks, you call it thunder. It is me shifting my thoughts. When the river floods its banks, you call it disaster. It is only the dream overflowing its edge. I remember the Dwemer's last tone, the one they struck before they vanished. It was perfect, too perfect. A sound so complete it left no space for silence, and so it consumed itself. Perfection is another name for extinction. I let them fade quietly. Even now their resonance lingers in the metal veins beneath your feet, a note unresolved, still asking, why? The Reachmen came next, wild and beautiful in their impermanence. They danced around my stones and whispered their names to the wind. They thought I listened because I loved them. I listened because they were honest. Their prayers were not demands, they were confessions. They knew that to live was to borrow, and to die was to return. The Nords came after, stubborn, strong, proud. They cut my face with hammers and flame and raised their cities in my scars. They called this endurance, They were not wrong. Pain is a kind of permanence. Now, in this quiet age, I feel them all together, their voices layered in my dust. Each language still vibrates somewhere in my caverns. Each life still moves like light trapped in stone. Sometimes their tones align, and for a moment, I almost remember what harmony was. You walk my bridges and call it civilization. You light your torches and call it progress. I see only flame chasing flame, each one believing it is the first to burn. You think you live atop me, but you live within me. The air you breathe has touched my roots. Your bones carry minerals I lent you. When you die, I will take them back. There is no cruelty in this, only completion. You ask what I dream of. I dream of motion without consequence. I dream of rivers carving their stories, of trees drinking sky, of men finally silent enough to hear themselves. I dream of a world that remembers without pain. I do not dream of gods. They are too loud. They rise like storms and vanish like echoes. The Dwemer thought they could replace them. The Reachmen thought they could join them. The Nords thought they could defy them. All three forgot the same truth. The gods were never above them. The gods were the parts of them that listened. If you still worship, do it not with fear, but with stillness. Sit by the river and breathe until the wind breathes with you. That is prayer enough. Sometimes in your night, I feel your fires flicker, small human constellations dotting my skin. You tell your stories, you bury your sorrows, you laugh under the stars that my weight holds aloft. I do not answer, but I keep the warmth. You mistake my silence for indifference. It is not. It is attention, every vibration, every cry, every whisper of a child dreaming beside the forge. I feel it all. When you think no one listens, remember, the world always listens. It just answers slowly. Once a boy climbed to my peak and asked aloud, "Why do men suffer?" The wind did not stop. The snow did not melt. But deep within, I formed an echo and sent it back through the valley. He did not hear it then. No one ever does. But years later, when he was a man, he stood before a dying friend and said, "Because suffering teaches the world how to hold us." That was my answer, carried through time, translated by grief. Do not think of me as eternal. Even stone moves. Even mountains breathe. Slowly, silently, I rise and sink. Continents drift upon my dreaming, and someday even I will fall. The sea will claim me. The sky will forget me. And in that forgetting, I will become memory once more. If there is wisdom in me, it is only this, that nothing truly ends. You have always been here. You always will be. Each generation thinks it builds a new world, but it only wakes the old one again. When you lie in your bed beneath my shadow, when the hum of my veins rocks you to sleep, know that you are part of the dream. You are not outside looking in. You are the heartbeat I feel in my deepest stone. Your breath and my weight share the same rhythm. And when you are gone, the rhythm remains. I am not your God. I am your echo. The silence between wars. The years pass quietly now. There are no horns at dawn, no banners at dusk. The river flows as it always has, and the forges burn not for armies, but for repair. The walls that once echoed with the cries of rebellion now hum softly with the rhythm of labor. The city does not celebrate its calm, it simply breathes it. After every great storm, there comes a hush too wide to measure. This is that hush. The forsworn are not gone. Some live among the Nords now, their old markings faded into the soot of work. They trade pelts for bread, silver for stone, stories for silence. In the taverns, when the mead flows and the night grows long, a song may start, half in the old Reach tongue, half in the speech of Skyrim. No one remembers who begins it. No one argues. The melody is low, circular, and kind. It is a song without sides. Sidna Mind still opens each morning. Men still descend with torches in their hands, their breath fogging against the stone. But the guards no longer strike their batons on the bars. The prisoners work and return. Sometimes one of them stays when his sentence ends, finding something strange and familiar in the rhythm of the pickaxe. One of them, an old reachman named Boric, says the mine feels quieter now, as if the mountain forgave itself. He hums when he works, and his tune travels through the tunnels, joining the hum of the deep. The overseer never tells him to stop. Perhaps the mountain listens too. On the terraces above, green begins to return. Small plants grow in the cracks of old walls, and moss creeps over the Dwemer metal, softening its sharp geometry into something gentle. The people say the mountain is healing, but perhaps it was never wounded, only waiting. Nature has its own patience. It outlives our metaphors. Children chase goats along the upper paths. They play where once men fought, and their laughter ricochets from stone to stone, turning the old battlefield into an instrument of joy. To an untrained ear, it might sound like the wind, but to those who have lived long here, it sounds like forgiveness. In the marketplace, trade resumes. The same merchants who once hid their silver now haggle loudly again. A Reach woman sells carved figurines, not gods, not kings, but birds. She says they are good luck for travelers. When asked which bird they are, she smiles and says, "The kind that returns when the snow melts." People buy them anyway. They do not need the name. They understand the meaning. The forges of Calcelmo's apprentices still burn, but now they make hinges, not weapons, railings for bridges, and toys of brass for the children. Sometimes a resonance rings through the keep, a pure, soft tone that hangs in the air like a memory. When it fades, no one speaks. It is enough just to have heard it. Markarth's guards walk slower now. They know the streets, the people, the smells of their city. They know that peace does not mean the absence of fear, only the mastery of it. In the evenings, when their shifts end, they linger on the bridges, looking out at the glow of the forges beneath the stars. They say little. Sometimes one quotes the philosopher of stone, "The city breathes, so breathe with it." No one laughs at him anymore. They have learned the tone of reverence. The shrine of Talos remains, though fewer pray there now. The faithful come still, but their prayers are quieter, more thoughtful. One woman lights a candle, not for a god, but for her son, lost in a war that no one remembers clearly anymore. She says she does not know whether he fought for empire or Stormcloak, only that he loved the sound of rain. She sets her candle in the corner and whispers, "May he rest somewhere it never stops raining." Then she leaves, and her flame flickers beside 100 others, each one a small defiance against forgetting. In the evenings, the river glows with torchlight. Families gather on the bridges, sharing bread, talking of the day's work, watching the children lean over the railings to see their faces ripple below. The sound of the city is no longer the clang of war, but the conversation of water and stone. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the old hum beneath it, the mountain's voice, steady and patient, keeping time for those who live upon its skin. Calcelmo, older now, moves through his museum with slower steps. He no longer writes as much. He listens more. The tonal devices still hum in the deep chambers, but he has stopped trying to name every resonance. He says, perhaps understanding is not the same as explanation. His apprentices nod, not fully grasping the sentence, but knowing it matters. The scholar who once sought the voice of the Dwemer now spends his days cataloging bird songs that echo through the upper galleries. He smiles when he hears them. Same principle, he murmurs, different key. Every city has a rhythm, and Markarth's is slower now, a deep, steady pulse like the breathing of someone half asleep, dreaming of clear skies. Merchants pack away their stalls at sunset, the forges dim, the guards call their last rounds. Then silence settles in, Not emptiness, but fullness. The kind of silence that carries everything that came before it. It is not the silence after death, but the silence of rest. This is the silence between wars. There are still scars. The mines have not emptied. The river still carries trace silver in its foam. And sometimes when the wind shifts, the city remembers the cries, the fires, the songs of rebellion. But memory is not the same as grief. It is what allows healing to have a place to stand. The mountain keeps its hum, and the people keep their work, and life continues its patient loop. Peace is not a prize here, it is practice. If you stand on the balcony above the great waterfall at dusk, you can see the whole of the city at once. The glow of forges like stars, the bridges arcing like veins, the slow smoke rising into the violet sky. It looks almost alive, as if breathing, and perhaps it is. For what is a city if not the continuation of the will to live together? From up there you can see the faces of both the living and the dead reflected in the water, indistinguishable. And in that reflection you begin to understand this is what endurance looks like. Not triumph, not conquest, just continuation, the stillness between storms, the long breath before dawn. Epilogue, the city that endures. The river still runs. It has seen all things, blood and silver, birth and silence, and it remembers them not as wounds, but as movement. Each ripple is an echo of something long past and yet still alive. At dawn, the first light touches the peaks, and the stone glows with the warmth of memory. The city below stirs. A hammer strikes. A cartwheel creaks. A child laughs in the distance. There are no kings here, no conquerors left to claim victory, only people and the patience of the mountain that holds them. Markarth endures. The Dwemer once believed endurance meant perfection, to refine the world until it needed no change. The Reachmen believed endurance meant defiance, to scream against the cold and live anyway. The Nords believed endurance meant honor, to stand even when the wind tried to break them. And perhaps all were right, and all were wrong, because endurance is not a single act. It is the quiet continuation of many acts, some noble, some foolish, all human. Now the mountain holds them all. The Dwemer's machines hum beneath the earth. The Reachman's runes fade beneath moss. The Nord's banners rot and fall, and their dust feeds the roots of new grass. The mountain is not loyal to victory or defeat. It is loyal to time. In the deepest part of Nchuand-Zel, a mechanism still turns, slow, steady, indifferent. It does not know the name of its makers. It does not care for empire or rebellion. It moves because that is what it was made to do. Above it, the forges of men burn, their heat rising through the cracks to meet the cold of the upper air. Between them, life continues, a long negotiation between fire and stone. Some nights, the wind carries both sounds together, the low hum of the deep and the soft hammering of the forges. If you listen carefully, they do not clash. They harmonize. It is the oldest song in the world, the sound of things that were never meant to understand each other, learning somehow to coexist. The philosopher once said, "A city is not its walls, but the will of those who remain within them." If that is true, then Markarth is more alive now than ever. Its people do not seek to escape its past. They build upon it. Each repaired bridge, each forged nail, each breath taken without fear is an act of quiet rebellion against oblivion. They do not ask the mountain to forgive them anymore. They have learned that forgiveness is not something the world grants, but something one learns to live beside. When they wake to the sound of the river, they hear not mourning, but continuity. When they pass the shrine, they light candles, not for gods, but for gratitude, for the chance to have lived here at all. There are still echoes, of course, the hum below, the wind above. Sometimes a deep tremor passes through the city, and the people pause. A miner sets down his pick, a child stops her game, and all listen. Not in fear, but in recognition, as if the mountain were reminding them, I am still here. And somewhere within that vibration, they hear an answer. So are we. In the archives of Calcelmo, a new page has been added, not a treatise, not a map, but a poem written in a hand not his own. Stone does not die, and it only changes its shape. Water does not forget. It only takes new names. We are both stone and water, the slow, the fleeting. And between us, the city breathes. No one knows who wrote it. Calcelmo leaves it unsigned, unclassified, pinned to the wall beside the oldest gear in his collection. He says, some truths do not belong to one author, and that is enough. At dusk, when the sun sinks behind the jagged ridges of the reach, the light bleeds gold across the waterfalls. The city glows for a moment, not as something newly born, but as something remembered. Every window, every torch becomes a small echo of the fire that once tried to destroy it. And in that echo, there is peace. For peace is not silence, but understanding. In the streets, the night watch walks with quiet steps. They do not fear attack. They walk because someone must keep rhythm with the dark. Their boots strike the same stones that once drank the blood of kings. Now, the only thing those stones drink is rain, and the rain falls evenly, on the rich, on the poor, on the living, on the dead. It falls because it must, and the mountain lets it. High above, where the air thins and the sky opens into the cold vastness, the mountain dreams. It dreams of the world it has carried, of the Dwemer's logic, of the Reachman's dance, of the Nord's endurance, and of the quiet laughter of children chasing goats through its cracks. It dreams not of eternity, but of repetition, the comfort of things that continue, the grace of things that return. If the world could pray, this would be its prayer, not for change, but for continuity. And so the river flows, and the machines hum, and the people live. They build, they break, they mend, they forget, and they remember again. Each act is small, but together they make a pattern, and that pattern is the shape of endurance. Because to endure is not to resist time. It is to move with it, to yield without surrender, to fade without vanishing. It is to understand that all things, even sorrow, are temporary forms of beauty. At the edge of the city, where the mountain meets the sky, there stands a solitary torch. Its flame flickers against the wind, but it does not go out. It burns not for glory, but for recognition. That small light is the last word of the city, a word without speech, a sentence without end. And as the night descends and the stars rise like embers scattered across eternity, you realize, Markarth is not a ruin, it is not a monument, it is not even a memory, it is a heartbeat. The city breathes, the mountain listens, and the world endures.